And understand too, like these resources, whether it's a podcast or reading, none of them make the journey less difficult, right?
Oh yeah.
They're
Say that again. Say that again. Say that again. Say that again. Say that again.
none of these things make the journey less difficult. It's still going to be hard.
Hey.
It's still going to require work. Like we all
say it again, Pastor.
We all want things to be easier. We all are looking for that secret shortcut, right? That secret thing that's going to make everything that we're doing so much less difficult. Man, if I just do this, then it's just going to be so much easier. Once we find that thing, we might share it with you, but we're probably going to charge you a lot of money for it.
But there's no easy button, son.
It's just not. It does not work that way. Like at the end of the day, we all have to go through it. Welcome back, everyone. You are tuning in to another episode of Level Up with Larry and Leo, where we transform challenges into opportunities and dreams into realities. I'm Larry, and as always, I'm joined by the co-host of the show, Leo. Today, we are diving into a thought-provoking topic. What would we do if we were to start over our businesses in 2025? Leo, it's great to have you here for this conversation.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. As always, click the like button, man. Click subscribe. Ride with us on this journey. Let's get it.
Awesome. So we're going to get started on this topic, and I think it's important to think about and consider, especially for those that are just getting started in business. We've had an opportunity to see a certain level of success in both of our businesses, and we have learned some challenges. We've learned what to do. We learned what not to do. And I think that we have enough value we can add in this conversation as to what are the things that we know for without a shadow of a doubt will work for those starting any type of business or endeavor. And we just want to see if we can add some value by provoking this topic. So let's get started. If you were to start over your business, what's the first thing that you would do based on your experience?
So based on my experience, and this may be a little different than what you'll hear other places. All right. So taking into consideration, you already did all your legal stuff, file for whatever, if you're whatever entity you are, or if you're just a sole proprietorship, take all that into consideration. You need to do all that.
Yeah.
Number one thing for me is mindset. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You have to have a mindset that is on the cusp of delusional, and you have to believe in whatever you're doing beyond the obstacles that are going to come in your way. I guarantee you 110% of the time, you're going to have something that comes up that's going to make you want to quit, whether it's the lack of resources. Hey, I don't have enough money to make the moves I want to make right now. Lack of access. Hey, I can't get to the places where I will need to get. Right. Mm-hmm. There's going to be obstacles along the way, but you have to have a mindset that this is my way out. This is my way to freedom. This is my way to financial freedom. And if I don't do it, nobody's coming to rescue me. Nobody's coming to hand me a check. Whatever Price House, and when we were growing up, they had the Price House. They knock on your door and give you big checks. They're not coming. Right. The government's not going to bail you out. Right. Whether you voting red or blue or purple or something in the middle, none of them are going to do anything that's going to radically change your life like you will. So you have to change your mindset. And what I did early on is I didn't know that. So I was looking for more technical help with how to do, what to do. And it was, months later that I stumbled upon, I got to reframe how I approach things. I got to change my mindset, especially if you're in sales. You're going to face a bunch of rejection, and your why, the reason why you're getting into business, the reason why you're pursuing this path has to be so great that you're not going to be stopped. Yeah. Okay. It's a no for you, but I'm moving on to the next one. And if anybody was single, a single man, you get rejected by pretty girls. If you're going to get a pretty girl to say yes, you're going to have a lot of pretty girls tell you no. And you got to
Yeah.
be okay with it. You got to be okay with, hey, I might not be the right one for her. She might not be attracted to what I present, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. But the next one might, and I won't know it until I say, hey, how you doing? Right? So you have to have a mindset that what I'm bringing to the market is worthy of what I'm asking for.
Mm-hmm.
B, yes, I know obstacles are going to come in my way, but I'm ready to overcome them. Whatever it takes for me to overcome them, I'm ready to push that out. And that's the number one thing I would start with is mindset.
You walking heavy, Rev, on this Monday morning.
I had to get in my preaching bag for a minute. I don't need an organ, though. I don't need an
You
organ.
walking heavy, you walking heavy. I definitely agree. I think that mindset is like so critical. It sounds so like untangible and
Kumbaya,
yeah,
fairyland. Yeah.
but it's important because there are so many things that will discourage you. So many
Yes.
things. Life doesn't stop just because you
Yes.
decided you want to follow your dreams. Life
Yeah.
doesn't quit just because you decided, oh man, I feel like I have this unique service that I can bring to the world. There's so many different things that come about, especially if you're starting from ground zero. Like
Yeah.
you didn't come from a wealthy family, you have no investors, you have no one that's gonna really like maybe you don't have that mentor. There's a lot of people talking about, oh, I need a mentor. Sometimes at the beginning you don't have $10,000-$15,000 to get a coaching session from somebody
Yeah.
in your industry that can really help you. You have to grind it out, you have to figure it out, you have to
Yeah.
be resourceful, you have to figure
Yes.
out how I can just pull something out of nothing. That's really what an entrepreneur is. An
Yeah.
entrepreneur takes nothing and turns it into something. They
Yeah.
figure it out. And
Yeah.
in order to do that without being discouraged, without quitting, you have to have the mindset to really stick with it when everything is against you. So I definitely agree. I think that's probably the most appropriate thing to start with on this
Yeah.
conversation is in the importance of mindset and knowing that it's up to me. No one's
Yeah.
coming to save me. Regardless of what I go through, I have to believe that eventually a door is going to open for me that's going to allow me to really prosper and get to the level I'm trying to get to. So, dope beginning to this conversation. I started off a little bit differently in my answer, but when I think about what allowed me to really break through, the first thing that I would do is discover what my unique service is in the marketplace. Really try to figure out like what is my unique service in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I know that's a bit of a challenge, especially when you're first getting started, depending on what you're doing, because sometimes we don't know what our unique, and sometimes it requires a bit of trial and error. But
Yeah.
the sooner you can figure out what your unique service is in the marketplace, the more that you're going to be able to really be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and figure out who your target audience is in that niche. And that's, I think, one of the things that I learned. Like I say this all the time, and I talked about it a bit in my opening when we talked about our stories. But the point that I really began to see success is when I focus my services on a particular group. When I
Yeah.
first get started, just like
Find
anyone
your
else,
niche.
you start with just anybody, right? Like anyone that's going to pay you, even the same in real estate, right? You're just like, yo, I just want my first deal. Like I just want to be able to sell my first house. And it's the
Yeah.
same like when you're starting a marketing business in my niche. Anybody who would pay me. I don't care who you are. You could be a realtor, you could be a dentist, you can be a chiropractor, don't really matter. But when I said, you know what, I have a unique service that I can offer to churches, and because of my background, because of the fact that I was in ministry for as long as I was able to really uniquely speak to them because I know what it's like behind the desk. I know what it's like in the office Monday through Friday. I understand how that industry goes, like what you're needing. I know that
Yeah.
Sunday is always coming, so I know what it is that's on their minds. So when I'm communicating to them, I'm able to really speak directly to them. And that was something that I noticed when I went into that industry. A lot of them said, man, I'm really glad that I am working with someone who gets it, because they could have gone across the seas and find someone to go and do what it is that I was doing, but they did not really speak the language that I understood. They didn't
Yeah.
understand what it is that they were really looking for, because
The
a
culture
lot
of
of times
church.
we think we're just selling our services, but really we're solving a problem that's a bit more intangible. I forgot, I
Yeah.
was listening to something not too long ago. It's I'm drawing a blank on it. I'll let you know once it comes back to my mind. But a lot of times what we're selling, oh, I remember when I was listening to a podcast, and this lady, she is the head of a multi-billion-dollar sales team who sells private planes to like the top 1%, right?
Oh, beautiful.
In the industry. She's a black woman. I forgot her name, but she's like a super super successful sales manager for
Jet
a
broker. Okay.
private plane company that sells private planes to these multi-billionaires. And she mentioned in this podcast that no one needs a private plane, right? So it's not, you're not really selling a private plane to them. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not, and the issue isn't even money at this point, because you know they have the money. What she had to figure out was she was not selling private planes, she was selling time.
Yeah.
She was saying, what I'm focused on is not the plane. That's not the issue. I have to tell them, hey, if you get this private plane, now you're going to be able to show up to your kid's soccer game when you get done with that meeting. Now you're going to be able to. So I'm selling you your time back.
Yeah.
So what people have to understand, and it's when you're discovering your unique service in the marketplace, is a lot of times what you sell isn't necessarily what is connecting to the
Yeah.
people that you're talking to. A lot
Yeah.
of
It
times
could be the
it's that
lifestyle connected to it, the
intangible
things that.
that you're giving them that they need from what it is that you serve. And it goes back to finding your unique audience, right? That
Yeah.
you can bridge that gap and show them, yeah, you need a house, but there's something deeper than that. Yeah, you need
Yeah.
a website, but there's something deeper than that. And finding out how to connect that's what's going to
Yeah.
really bring that ultimate success.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for me, how I went about developing the mindset was I started to really remove some things from my life and I started to add other things. And the way that we're built and conditioned as human beings is to find a negative. That's it. That's how we survived all these years. The people that were worse at finding the negatives, they didn't survive as long as those who were. So naturally, our mind has a predisposition to find negatives because negatives typically mean threats, and threats could end your life. So the same way our minds were conditioned to find a negative, I had to recondition my mind to find the positive in certain things that were not going well. And I had to say that, there's a term I adopted. I don't know who coined it. Failure is not fatal.
Yeah.
If something didn't work out, it doesn't mean that's the end of your business. It doesn't mean that's the end of your career. It doesn't mean that's the end of your entrepreneurial pursuits. And if you see people who've had success, I would venture to say 99.99999% of them, it wasn't their first time out in business. It wasn't their first time trying. It was just they kept going until they found something that hit them and it hit for their customers. So what I started to do is there's a great book called Miracle Mornings. And part of our podcast, we're going to get into books. And I started to reframe how I started my morning. And starting my morning off, it's still hard to this day, but my phone wasn't the first thing I looked at, right? My alarm went off. I clicked the button to turn it off. I'm up. And that's when I start my morning. I stay away from, okay, let me check my emails. Let me check social. Let me frame my mind to start the day. How am I going to start the day? So I get up, I do a couple push-ups, or I put my shoes on and I go for a walk. And on my walk, I am talking to myself and I'm telling myself what I'm going to do this year. I'm not even talking about this week or this month. I'm talking about, hey, this is my financial goal. This is my family goal. This is my vacation I want to go on in the summer. And as I'm walking for those 20 minutes, I'm telling myself these things, and I'm just giving my mind an agenda like, yo, this is what we're working towards. Yes, this week may be full of no's, and this week may be dry and may not have a commission come in. But the longer you're able to do something without an immediate result, the more successful you're likely to be. But if you need something to break, like, hey, I need this to pay out next week, then you're probably going to quit, right? Because the results aren't going to come for a while. And if you listen to one of our previous podcasts, you'll know that I went 6 months without making anything from real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And if I, after 3 months, I would have gave up, right? After 3 weeks of not getting a paycheck, I could have given up. So you got to be willing to sustain your same level of drive and your same level of inspiration and your same level of determination for a long period of time. For instance, me and you, we went into this podcast saying, okay, this is how many episodes we're going to do, regardless of if we get 1 listener, we get 100 listeners, we get 10,000 listeners, we get 1 million listeners. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We're going to put out X amount of videos, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. And guess what? It still might not work out, but guess what we're going to do? During the time of our conversation, we're going to become better at being podcasters. We're going to we're going to develop this skill that is marketable. So you just have to reframe how you see things, and that's part of developing mindset and getting beyond where you're at. And we'll talk about your why and how you build your why so big that the negative stuff that happens doesn't cloud your perspective and make you think, man, I should run home with my tail between my legs because everybody I'm talking to is telling me no, and everybody I'm calling is hanging up on me, and nobody sees what I'm trying to offer. And guess what? You might be at a place where you're looking for a mentor and no mentor will take you. So you got to look to videos like this. I remember I called a really big realtor in the area when I first started. I said, hey, man, I just want to shadow you. I see you're doing big things. I want to shadow you. And I know you have a team. I'd like to be on the team, but if not, I just want to come in and I just want to shadow and be a fly on the wall to see what you guys do to be successful. I left like 3 voicemails. I sent like a few emails. No response, bro. None. So if I was depending on somebody else to come and rescue me and hold my hand, that wasn't coming. And my broker at the time, he was successful, but he didn't reach the level of success that I wanted. A lot of times you have to see it and conceptualize it in your mind to be able to bring it to reality. But again, mindset, developing mindset, cutting stuff out, bringing the right stuff in, the right people in, and then surround yourself with people who may not have what you want, but they have the drive to get it like you have, right? There's an adage where if you hang out with 2 millionaires, you're going to become the 3rd millionaire. If you hang out with 2 gangsters, you're going to become the 3rd gangster. If if you hang out with 3 preachers, you're going to be the 4th preacher. It's so establish the company that you want to keep, right? And they don't have to already be there, but if they have the drive, they have the determination, hang out with them, create time to just chat and They may not even have to be in the same field, but if they're an entrepreneur and they're getting things, how many times we spent hours on the phone just talking business, talking about, hey, I got
Yeah.
this idea. What do you think about it? And you poke holes in my ideas, I poke holes in your ideas, and we get, oh man, I didn't think about doing this. So,
Yeah.
second thing I would say is get around some people that are going in the same direction. The church folks might say, get equally yoked, right? In business, be equally yoked. Be with people that are going the same direction that you're going, and
Yeah.
not saying, "Man, some things go wrong," and they're quick to run and punch the clock again. There's nothing wrong with punching the clock, but if your goal is not to punch the clock, you can't hang around with people who always cling to that option.
Mm. That's so good. So really the second thing you would do is just find community, like-minded
Yes.
people who
Yeah.
can really encourage you, that will sharpen you. Iron sharpens iron. We
Yep.
want to find people who are in the similar direction, because if you're around people who are not going in the same direction, that's going to make it even easier to quit.
Harder. Yeah.
It's going to make it even easier to say, well, maybe I'm just crazy, because a lot of times you're going to think, man, why am I even doing this? This is a waste of time. I know the family that I came up in, they're all like, dude, don't try to start a business, like get a regular job. Like
Yeah. Get a nine to
what is
five,
what
man.
is
Work your way up.
what
Middle
is
management.
what are you doing in trying to start your own business? Like, you think you're going to be more successful than we are? Like,
Yeah.
it's just all of those types of things that if you don't have people in your life that will encourage you, then it's going to be a lot easier to give up and to like kind of give in to those pressures. I definitely
Yeah.
think that is a great point. To stick with that for a second before I'll give my second point, which actually is actually a little bit similar, is where would somebody find people that meet that criteria? Like, where do you go to find people who are doing that?
Well, the real estate world kind of creates that naturally. There's meetups, there's a lot of conferences, and some of them are absolutely free. And by free, I mean they're bringing you free and they're trying to sell you something, right?
Right.
And if you don't have no money, don't buy it. Even if you have money, don't buy it. You don't have to buy it, but you
Yeah.
could come in and get
And meet.
some great inspirational stuff. You get some jewels, and you can meet people that are going in the same direction as you. Say, hey,
Yeah.
how long you been in the industry? I've been in this long. How, what's your year looking like? Stuff like that, and build community. I mean, I have agents that call me that aren't part of my brokerage, that call me multiple times a week just to talk about what their business is doing, how they're growing, what their plans are, both from the investor side and the broker retail side. So
Do you
find community through Meetup, through all the corny stuff that they put on for whatever your business is. If it's
Yeah.
free, it's for me, right? Go to those, go to those, and be ready to learn, but more so be ready to network.
Hmm.
Bring your digital card, bring a physical card to connect with you and get actual numbers and text them and say, hey, this is Leo. We met at such and such conference. I just want to connect with you. That's it. And believe it or not, you may have had 1, 2, 3 conversations, and there's been times where I've talked to somebody, and months later, they'll reach out and say, "Hey, I got a referral for you. Are you still, servicing this area?" Yeah, I am. Good. Send it my way. I'll send you your referral fee when they close. So those types of things help build your business, and through doing that, you will build your village within the industry that you're in. Not everybody's going to be part of your village, but you're going to find 2 or 3 people that could be part of your village that you could really help you get to the next level. What about
A
you?
couple other that I would think of. Number one, Toastmasters is a
Yeah.
great networking place. You're able to go in there and sharpen your communication skills. A lot of times, if you're going in there and you're doing speeches, in that group, you can use those as opportunity to pitch whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah.
And that gives people, it's not necessarily you going to sell to those people, but you're able to get feedback about
Yeah, and
how.
refine your speech, your sales proposition.
And I'm actually, I probably, in my Toastmasters that I was in Sacramento, I probably made at least 5 grand
Wow.
total just from being in there.
Just that
And
small group.
yeah, it was a pretty small group, but people that were in there, I had several clients that came just from being in that group. And it wasn't because I was in there selling or, really trying to pitch. I was a part
They
of the
saw,
group.
yeah, they got to see who you actually are.
Right. And
Because I'm sure
they
you went to
were.
more than one or two
Oh yeah, I was
before
like,
they started.
I was on the leadership team at some point, like
Yeah,
actually involved in the group, and I understood like this isn't. I'm more interested in just refining my skill in being in
yeah,
this group, but a lot of times when you're not as forceful in there, trying to sell people, trying to get them in, they'll see that and say, you know what, I actually like what you're doing, and I'm interested in. I need someone to do whatever that
what
is.
is you
So
providing?
that was a big one. And also, we're actually gonna have a whole episode on this, is church or some sort of faith community.
Yeah,
Those, a lot of times we don't realize how valuable those communities can be, not only spiritually but also just in terms of building relationships and building connections and networks. And again, you're not going there to sell your business or sell
yeah,
your services, but a lot of times just being a part of the community. Let's say you're a part of the ministry in some way, shape, or form. You're a part of it, and people know, hey, he does this as well. A lot of times people will say, hey, I know someone who needs that. Let me refer them to you. It's sort of that thing that when you're in relationship or proximity to people and you have relationship, like we need to do a whole episode on just the sphere of influence and how important that is
yeah,
to building your businesses, because it's so important. Like having relation, that is the key. Like relationship
yeah. The
over
gold
revenue.
is in relationships.
it
All the
it
gold,
honestly
all the
is.
gold.
And when it's genuine, I think that it's like when you're not just in the relationship because you're trying to sell. Like we're not
Yeah.
talking about like what is it, MLM or something like that. Like you're
Oh my gosh.
just you people can tell like that's the only reason you're talking to them is because you're trying to get them into one of your businesses or whatever. That's not
Yeah.
what we're talking about. We're just talking about normal relationships. You go to the YMCA or some other gym. A gym could be a great place that you can build net
To
and network.
network and meet people.
I have a gym that I go to here, Orange Theory. It's more than just like your gym. Like you sign up, you meet people when you're waiting for the class to start. There are doctors in these gyms that you connect with, and people say, "Hey, this is what I do. This is what," and you are able to network because they see you so much, and you're a part of
Yeah.
that community. At our gym, we go to other networking events where we go. We did a Dave and Buster's thing a couple of months ago and other things outside of just that gym. So there's like a community aspect
Oh,
to it,
cool.
but you're able to go and network a lot of. If you're single, you might want to check out Orange Theory
You
because
got a
there could
single
be
group.
you you could go and connect and meet people that are also single. But just in terms of building relationships and networks in your community, there are so many different ways. Chamber of Commerce is another
Yes.
thing. Like there's so many different ways that you can go about building up that network to really get yourself out there. And the more people that you'll be surprised how quickly that helps build out your business to what
And
you're
I could
looking to
almost
do.
hear the somebody in the audience saying, "Well, I really don't know how to talk to strangers." And what method I used is the Ford method. I don't know if you've heard of that. So just
Mm-mm.
ask them about their family, their occupation, recreation, what they do for fun, and
Mm-hmm.
their dreams. What's their ultimate dream, right? If you find a way to have a conversation about any of those four things, people will open up. People think you're great when they're able to talk about themselves to you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be willing to be a listener more so than tell them about you. So when you ask somebody, "Hey, what do you do? What do you do for a living, or what do you do for fun?"
Mm-hmm.
and let them talk and talk and talk and talk. And then they'll start feeling bad. Oh man, I've been talking for 3 minutes. I've been talking for 5 minutes. So what do you do
Right.
for work? Boom. This is what I do. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, I didn't know that. So now you've introduced yourself, you've introduced your business or what it is that you a service that you provide. Then don't leave the conversation there. Ask them about something that's totally non-business related. So what do you
Yeah.
guys do for fun? Ask them about your family. Hey, I see a ring. Are you married? How long you been married? Just having
Mm-hmm.
just light conversation,
Talk
and
about your kids.
that yeah, that's how you start building and introducing yourselves to strangers. Because I know it could be scary, and I know it could be like, man, what am I gonna say? I don't know what to say. You don't really have to say anything. You just have to ask them questions, open ended, and tell me about your family. Oh man, I moved out here by myself, or my family's back in South Carolina. And
Mm-hmm.
just let them go, let them talk, and they were like, man, I really enjoyed that conversation with Larry. Not
Yeah.
knowing they just enjoyed talking about themselves for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Because if you become likable, just like a normal person, people do business with the people they like,
Yeah,
right? Like that's really, it's like if they trust you and if they like being around you, a lot of times they're going to choose to do business with you over a person that they don't necessarily trust or they don't
exactly.
necessarily like or they don't feel like really cares about them. They only
Yeah,
care about, the business that they're going to get for them. So that's why it's really important to have interests outside of just your business. Like really figure out like if you're into sports, go somewhere where people are into sports and have that
exactly.
commonality. And many times you will their business is going to come up eventually. Like
Yeah,
one of the first questions people ask is what do you do? Right?
exactly. Yeah. Get on
So
a adult kickball team, pickleball, men's league
that's really big now.
basketball.
I've never. Do you ever play pickleball? Like I see so many people talk about pickleball.
It's one of the fastest growing sports in America. Yeah, I haven't played it, but um, leagues are starting up everywhere for pickleball, and
Crazy.
it's not as strenuous as tennis, and it's a little bit more active than table tennis. Is where I would put pickleball, but people love it.
Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah,
I still don't know what it is. Maybe somebody
golf.
can.
I mean, golf is. If you pick up golf, you could
Oh,
you could do a lot of business on the golf course. A lot of business.
car
And they have
shows.
they have a myriad of different tournaments going on that you could just join as a regular person, or you could sponsor and get your name out there and talk to people. And those are going to be the people that once they get to know you and trust you, they're going to bring you in to their village, and they're going to want to do business with you. And
And even
one of my
online.
biggest customers was from coaching youth basketball, and
Mm,
we just developed a friendship as coaches, and he saw how I moved, and
mhm.
and he was like, man, this man could really add value to what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to go. We're equally yoked. We're being pulled in the same direction to, you know, build a better life for our families and do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, you'll find that if you are in those places and you're genuine about who you are, and you don't lead with the service you provide, you lead with who you are, and they'll ask you, what do you do? Especially if you're maybe women don't talk this way, but men, we that's how we operate. Really, we're like,
Mhm.
all right, how you doing? What's your name? So what do you do?
Right.
Like, come on, like you on earth to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you want to do? And but yeah, I
And
completely
even if
agree.
like you're even there are a lot of online groups. Maybe you don't live somewhere where there's like a huge there's a lot of like those types of groups going on. Maybe you're into like video games, and you there's a bunch of video game
Yeah,
communities out
gamers.
there. There's a bunch of Facebook groups that you can join, book clubs. They're
Yeah,
like it's endless the possibilities that you can have when finding, different things that you're interested in. I think it's just important that you're intentional about it. The key is you have to be intentional about it. Like you can't just say, I'm gonna wait till somebody invites me to their thing. You have to go and join it. You have to
yeah,
be intentional and say, I'm gonna make sure that people know me and get to know me. And
yeah,
that's the part, like, it's not just going to happen by osmosis. Like, that's just not how life works. If you want something, and that's the mindset that you have, you have to go do it. You have to go find it. It's not going to find you.
yeah,
Like, so you have to get out of your head where you think, well, if people really want to be around me, they're going to just come and knock on my door and DM me and invite me to all this
no.
stuff.
And
You have
the
to.
theme of this podcast is, pardon my English, ain't nobody coming to save you. Ain't nobody coming to
No,
save you.
Jesus saved your soul, but you gotta, you
Ain't
gotta.
nobody coming to save your business. Ain't nobody coming to help you build out your network of friends and business partners. Nobody.
You have to go save yourself. Like you have to say, like it's really about being intentional. Like nothing in this life happens just because we pray and we hope for it. Like, yeah, you pray, but then you have to go do something. You have to
Yeah,
put
there's
yourself out
what
there.
was the you've heard the adage, when you pray, move your feet,
No.
bro. That's another thing that I found real impactful when I was growing up. It's like, when you pray, move your feet. Don't just pray and just stay and you know pray and move your feet. That means you got to put some work into it. And where your ability stops, that's where God's ability begins. That's where His divinity starts. But if you don't start nothing, how's God gonna bless?
Bless what? Like, what do you
Yeah,
do?
you gotta give me something to bless. You gotta
Like
give me
do.
something to bless, man. You gotta come on now. You gotta
All
give me
right,
something to bless.
we
Even
can. That
even Jesus was like, "Hey, man, what y'all got on y'all? Y'all got some fish and some bread? Y'all got that? Y'all got all right?
listen,
Let
we
me
got a whole
multiply that."
conversation set up for that in our next episode. We gonna get into that part.
But that's what
But
I'm
let
saying.
me.
I'm like, bro, do something.
You have to. Like, it's
Yeah,
it's it's really not gonna work unless you work. But let me get into my
exactly.
second thing. The thing that I would do that I found very, very helpful is to find people who are looking for my services. Don't try to convince people that they want what you have.
Yeah,
I spent so much time DMing people, trying to create webinars, trying to create all of these different things, being super fancy. Like, man, I'm gonna set up this webinar and I'm gonna run this Facebook ad, and I'm just gonna be blowing up with everybody wanting my business. Like, while there are people who can make that type of thing happen, what I found to be the most helpful for me is, let me go find where the people are out there saying this is what I want. And when
yeah,
I know that what they want is something I can do, I'm going to let them know, hey, I can do that. And a few places you can do that is like on Upwork. Upwork, there are a lot of people who are looking for digital services, right? Whether it's marketing or something else like that. I'm sure with every industry, there is some place where people are saying, hey, I want this or I want that. Really trying to make sure that you're being found where people are actually, where people are actually looking for that service, I think is a really big deal.
yeah,
Indeed, I mentioned this in our last episode. Indeed is huge. That's a really, a lot of times people think that that's just for people looking for jobs, but people are looking for contractors on there all the time. And that's a great way for you to get really good business and really good clients. Many times people will post on LinkedIn or even on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for this. On my Facebook all the time, I get people in the church space saying, hey, I'm looking for a graphic designer. Hey, I'm looking
Yeah.
for a web designer. I hop in their DMs like, hey,
Yeah.
this is my
Dive in.
this is my resume. This is my link. This is my portfolio. Like, just let
Yeah.
me know. And those types of things. I think a lot of times we've been told, hey, go out and just like sell, 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 sell. That's kind of challenging because you're trying to convince someone who never even told you they needed that they want
Yeah.
something. But if
Yeah.
people already say this is what I need, now that's half
They're
the
further
battle.
down the funnel. Yeah. They're further down the
You just
funnel.
have to go and convince them that you can do what they're looking for. So it's a lot easier. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I agree because that gives a step. So there's the shotgun method and the sniper method. Like I've got a better chance. I've got a better chance with the sniper rifle than a shotgun. If I'm looking for precision, then yeah, let me go find like the shotgun method. You might do more, but you'll have to sell off a lot more bullets,
Mm-hmm.
and until you find the people that are in your sphere, like you'll have to see. I don't even know how the algorithm's going to act when I say the word bullets. but but the goal is to find someone that is as close to the bottom of the funnel as possible, right?
Yeah.
And after you've exhausted that, then you could move up the top of the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the business, and I'm saying funnel like people know what I'm talking about. So the funnel of, let's say when you're funneling water into a bottle,
Yeah.
the top has the majority of the population. They either
Yeah.
don't know about you, don't know they need that they need your services, right? They're just up top. Then you have a little bit deeper in the funnel. They know about your business. They're unsure about if they need it or not, or if they trust you or not. But they've been acquainted with that type of service. They're becoming acquainted with you. And then way down at the end of the funnel, they know they need it. They're looking for it, but they just don't know if it's going to be you or not. And then
Right.
when you're really getting the money is the people that's like, yeah, you're the one. This is the service that I need, and those convert pretty quickly. And the referrals typically come at the bottom of the funnel because they've expressed to a friend or a family member or a trusted individual, hey man, I need X, Y, and Z. And like, oh man, have you talked to Larry or have you talked to Leo?
Right.
And
And that's the part
um,
too.
they already, yeah, they
When
already
you do that,
gave their credibility to you. They're saying,
mm-hmm.
hey, I trust this person, so you should trust them too, and they'll take care of you. So that is where you should aim for, is to be closer to the bottom of the funnel, because that life cycle will be shorter between meeting that person and actually delivering a service that gets you paid.
And that's where you really figure out like what you do best. That's where you figure out your system. That's where you figure out your process. Eventually you can, what I can say about this method that we're talking about, it's really best for people who are just starting. It's not necessarily what scales, but
Yeah,
I think that starting off doing it this way, it's going to allow you to figure out your systems, figure out your process. And once you figure that out, then you can go into more of the advanced models of, doing a really good webinar. Why? Because you have so much knowledge based on the work that you did and what we're talking about, that now you can speak as an authority and speak at much more of a scale because of all of the work that you did here. I think a lot of times
yeah,
we see the influencers online and we see the people doing all these things and it looks so sexy and it looks so awesome. And it's just like, man, they just turn on an ad and they're already made $1 million and all these different things, not knowing that they had to start off here. What we're talking
yeah,
about, building
yeah,
network, building relationships, all of these things that aren't sexy, that aren't going to get a lot of clicks and likes, but it's how you build a business. This is how you build a business from the ground up. When you don't have an influencer that you can call and say, hey, can you do a video for me so I can post it
Yeah.
on my Facebook or anywhere else? A lot of times we don't have that when we start off, so we have to grind. And I think these are a lot of times the best ways to go about it. So, Leo, why don't you give us a third thing that you would do if you were to get started, and I'll give you mine and we'll wrap it up for today.
My third thing is have a schedule. It's boring. It's really boring. It's dry. But have a schedule. You had a schedule when you were doing your 9 to 5, right? You had a schedule. So have a schedule. I can't say anything else. Have a schedule. Have a schedule and stick to the schedule. Have a schedule and make it important to have your schedule. Have a schedule and tell people, hey, I have some things scheduled. Let me schedule you after what I have scheduled. Have a schedule and let the schedule dictate your day and not let your day dictate your schedule. Have a schedule. Can I hear from the choir? Have a schedule that means something. Because I fell into the trap too. I would have a schedule and a client would call and say, hey, can we meet at this time instead of that time? And I would crap my schedule to meet with that client, and that would throw off the rest of my week or the rest of my day. Have a schedule, because they have a schedule, and if you respect your schedule, others will respect your schedule. But if you don't respect your schedule, they won't respect your schedule. When I started, I would take phone calls at 8, 9 o'clock at night from clients. I had no respect of my schedule or my family's schedule, and neither did they. I was on the phone talking at 10:30 p.m. about something that could have waited to the next day. Because the industry that I'm in, real estate, there's no such thing as an emergency that's that pivotal, right? Whatever it is, it could wait till the next day. If something's going out of contract, guess what? You knew that 3 weeks ago that was the end of the contract date, right? So your lack of planning is creating the emergency. So if you had a schedule, you would have had on your schedule, hey, this is going to be ending in 5 days. Are we on track to close in 5 days? No. Well, let's get an extension. Have a schedule. I'm preaching to myself too. But respect your schedule and others will respect the schedule. And when you have that initial conversation with someone, tell them, hey, I'm in the office between 9 and noon doing paperwork and making sure every transaction is in place and we're ready to close. So if you call me and I'm not available between 9 and noon, know that I return calls between 1 and 3. And I do appointments for showings between 2 and 6. And that's my schedule. What day between 2 and 6 are you able to see properties? Right? And respect your schedule. Now, I'm not telling you to be a robot. But if you're going to make an exception for your schedule, let them know this is abnormal. I don't do this. This is the only time I'm doing this. I don't create a habit of doing it. But like, for instance, I had a customer fly in from the UK, and they had a specific window that they could work within. But I knew that 3 weeks before they came. So I said, hey, I usually don't switch up my schedule, but you're coming all the way from the UK, you're coming from London, I'll make the time. But typically this is when I do what I do. Yeah. Make that schedule and tell them about your schedule. And even in your voicemail, you could even leave it on your voicemail and say, hey, this is my schedule. So if I miss your call, this is when I return calls. And I return them within 24 hours or between one business day. So if you say, hey, I'm not going to work weekends, you don't work weekends. I know agents that are uber successful that don't work Saturday and Sunday.
Mm.
I'm talking about doing over $1 million in gross commission income without working weekends.
Wow.
Because guess what? The job that you were working at 9 to 5, a lot of them weren't open on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what the customer did? They abided by their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a store that says they close at 8 and you arrive at 7:59, they'll let you know, hey, we got 1 minute. You don't even have time to get in here and get out. I'm sorry. Somebody
Yeah.
probably standing by the door. I know the grocery store I go to around the corner, somebody stand by the door with like 5 minutes left, letting people know, hey, we closing in 5 minutes. So if it's something you need that's going to take more than 5 minutes, you may want to come back tomorrow. So that's my last thing is create a schedule, and that creating that schedule allows you to plan time for your resetting your mind in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you time at night to write your list of things that you're grateful for. You create a schedule that helps you create the life that you want. And if you do that, I 100% believe it will elevate your level of professionalism. It'll elevate the experience that you have with your customers because you're setting the expectation, which is the
Yeah.
3A, is set the expectation. And for me, I always set the expectation and I as the worst and hope for the best because I would much prefer to under promise and over deliver than to
Yeah.
over promise and under deliver because that makes people feel a certain way. And when they feel that way, they are more likely to talk about, oh, I had this horrible experience. He told me I would only need 5,000. Now I need 7,000. Now I'm gonna tell you, you need 8,500, and you need 7,000. You're gonna feel a lot better about. Oh man, I thought I would need 8,500, and I only need 7,000. So
Yeah.
I am. I'm not trying to discourage everybody, but I'm trying to tell you this is what's really going to be necessary. And if it happens to be less than what I told you, you're not mad at me. You're not mad that you saved an extra $1,500.
Yeah.
You're not mad about that. But you are mad if you find out, oh, you need to go get an extra $1,500. So set a schedule, set expectations. That's number 3 for me.
That's really good. There's so much that goes into it. That probably would require an entire episode just because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, there's like this myth that you have, all this free time.
Uber free time, yeah.
When really instead of somebody else dictating your schedule, now it's your job to dictate your schedule. And that really goes into like prioritizing, like,
Yeah,
what are the actions that are the most profitable for me
yeah,
long term? How do I prioritize them? And then even going into your energy levels,
yeah,
like some people, they're night owls. So there's some people who can just, work all night and that works for whatever it is that they do. Right. And then there are some people who are just like they're more morning, they work better and more functional in the morning. So really knowing yourself and knowing, what's the best schedule that works for me, and
yeah,
how can I make that work in whatever it is that I'm doing. So seeing, I would say, like having like a calendar, like a Google calendar or something like that that is visual, because when you look at the calendar, like in front of you, like I have a Google calendar that I'm constantly updating, it shows you 168 hours that you
yeah.
have available to yourself, and you realize, oh man, there's a lot of free time that I'm not really utilizing to the best of my ability. So when you find yourself maybe falling behind or not doing what it is that you're supposed to do, you need to check
Preach it.
back in that 168 hours that you have in the week and really make sure that things are going where they're supposed to go. So I definitely agree. And it's crazy because my last point actually ties into this. The third thing that I would really think about, and again, this is really different depending on what type of business that you do, is building a team, right? Building a team, because leadership scales. That's what allows you to scale. When you're able to build a team, find people who do things that you may be weak at. Let's say you're in an agency, maybe you have people that you can hire that can do various different tasks, like a graphic designer, a video designer. If you're a realtor, maybe you can find an assistant, or maybe you can find other people that can help you. But really finding a right team that's not going to bankrupt you, right? You have to still be able to make a profit afterwards, but you
Yeah,
still want to find a team that's going to allow you to be able to do what you're most good at, and you can begin to delegate out what is not as good, or just things that aren't very profitable. Like, there are certain things that all of us have to do that doesn't really make us very much money. Like,
yeah.
if you
Don't do
had to
the
choose,
$5 an hour task.
right? Like, whether if you're like, putting together documents, or like in your case, you're much more profitable being on the phone with a potential new client than putting paperwork together, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's not the
the
most profitable
best
use of your time.
addition to my team was when I had a transaction coordinator, and you
Hmm.
could get a transaction coordinator on a transaction basis. They a set fee for listings and a set fee for buyers, and you don't pay them unless it closes. So they're fully as invested as you are, and you know they take care once it's under contract. They take care of the paperwork, and that allows you to not have to chase around people to sign stuff, and you could focus more on the clients that are looking, and you can focus more on your funnel. So it really helped me get to the next level is by adding that transaction coordinator. So I definitely agree. Build your team of people that will help you to scale, will help you to free up your schedule, and
Hmm.
be able to add in some other things.
Definitely, you want to understand what are the major things that are going to push your business forward. It goes back to, your what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. And if you reverse engineer that, then you could begin to put these other things in place. Then you can figure out, what does my schedule need to look like in order to fulfill that goal? Like, what are the
Yeah,
things that I'm most good at? What are the services that I'm offering? Like, all these different things. I think there's so much things that connect them, that will, if you put them together and you really take all of these things that we talked about today and you put them into action, like, you can definitely get a real game plan that's going to allow you to be successful. I don't think there's any real industry that what we talked about today doesn't that it wouldn't apply in.
yeah,
I don't
I
care if
agree.
you're a insurance broker. I don't care if you're a real estate agent, a marketing agent. I don't care if you're a pastor. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like, all of
Yeah,
these things are very applicable to every industry.
100% agree. Yeah, and these are things that we didn't get the breakdown of when we first started. And a lot of people are talking about other stuff, but these, I feel, for me, were the things that really helped push me up. Once I figured out, I got to fix my mindset. And once I figured out these things, I gotta have some like-minded people around me. Once I figured out, I gotta fix my schedule. Like, once I figured those things out, other things started to fall in place, and opportunities started to come to me that I didn't have to go get. And I became kind of a magnet for others that were the same.
Yeah.
And not to get too churchy, folks said that a lot of times leaders attract people that are similar to them. And if you want to be a certain place, you have to develop that level of whatever it is that you're wanting. So if that means reading a book pertaining to business every month, or
Yeah.
audiobook, do that. Do that. It's gonna be different, but do that. And it doesn't have to be overnight. It could be 30 minutes a
Hmm.
day. It could be 15 minutes a day. And studies show that reading before you go to sleep is beneficial to a restful sleep. So read for 15 minutes before you go to bed. And bro, I'm telling you, it will change your mindset, and you'll see how crazy. You'll be like, man, it's crazy. I've been doing this for 6 weeks, and now like negative stuff comes into my mind, and I'm like, nah, you out, get out of here, boom. And
Yeah.
I'm on to the positive, and I'm creating that defense mechanism to stop myself from spiraling down. And when you spiral down, you are no help to nobody. And again, nobody's coming to rescue you. You got to do it.
Gotta
There's
figure it out.
nobody. And if that means turning on a podcast like this and listening, like, yo, man, let me get back on it. Let me get back and getting encouragement that way. You got to do that. Nobody's going to come and say, hey, can you listen to this? Hey, can you read this? Nah. You gotta know, hey, I'm heading in the wrong direction. What is something that I could use to recalibrate myself to be back on track? Because it happens to all of us.
And understand too, like these resources, whether it's a podcast or reading, none of them make the journey less difficult,
Oh
right?
yeah.
They're
Say that again. 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 Say it
none
again.
of these things make the journey less difficult. It's still going to be hard.
Hey,
It's still going to require work. Like we
say
all
it again, Pastor.
we all want things to be easier. We all are looking for that secret shortcut, right? That secret thing that's going to make everything that we're doing so much less difficult. Man, if I just do this, then it's just going to be so much easier. Once we find that thing, we might share it with you, but we're probably going to charge you a lot of money for it. But
There's no easy button, son.
it's just not. It does not work that way. Like at the end of the day, we all have to go through it. We all have to grind, but we become better in the process. Are there some people who have it a lot easier because they have a lot more resources at their disposal? Yeah, but guess what though? Guess what? When you have it easier, a lot of times you're not when it does get tough, you're not built strong enough to be able to handle it, because eventually things get hard for everybody in
Yeah.
business, right? There's a level where it's going to get difficult. And if you just had it easy at the beginning, let's say you just struck gold at the very beginning. You had one viral video that just blew up and everything you touched turned to gold. Okay, that's cool. But eventually there's going to come a point that it's not going to be, things are going to be difficult for you, and you don't have this time period that prepares you for the difficultness. But when you go through this grind at the beginning and you learn about yourself and about how business really works, it prepares you for the next level. You don't want it easy, because then you're not going to be prepared for the challenges that you're going to ultimately face, because everyone has them. And that's the thing, like we have to stop wanting it to be easy. Like it's not going to be. Like it's not going to be easy, but the things that we shared about today will, or at least give you a path. It's not going to make the path more easy. It just gives you things to do. That's all we're here to do. Like, so don't think this is just going to, oh man, if I listen to this podcast, they're going to make my life so much easier. And I'm just going to have all these easy.
There's no easy button. There's no easy button in life. I know this is probably supposed to go on a different podcast, a different episode, but I get an itch. I get annoyed. I get peeved. I don't know if it's indignation. I don't know what it is, but I feel some type of way when I hear in the church space when people say, God is going to A, cancel your debt, B, give you stuff, when that same God that has the ability to cancel your debt also has the ability to give you and help you develop a set of skills and create a business to pay off your debts and be financially free the same way. And I believe that God is more evident in scripture than the God that's just giving it to you without you having to do anything. So please, please adopt a mindset that God is a helper of those who help themselves.
Please.
Why did he take the talent away from the guy who hid it and gave it to the one who already had the most? Because he knew how to work. He knew what was expected of him. He wasn't afraid to take risks. Like, come on, people. Let's stop waiting for the handout when God is giving you a hand up and giving you an opportunity, especially in this age of digital marketing and digital. Like, come on. Come on. I know nurses who have opened up businesses that are making multiple six figures. I know people who have turned their esthetician business, where they were just an esthetician at a spa, turned it into their own place of business, and now they're making six figures doing the exact same thing they were doing for somebody else. But they leveraged their ability to connect with people. They leveraged the internet and marketing. They leveraged the now empty offices that have turned into executive offices, and now they have a place of business that they're paying $500, $700, $800 a month, all in, and they bought some equipment with the money they saved from their 9 to 5, and they started out just doing it on the days that they weren't working, to now
Bro,
they're doing it
bro,
full time.
you're sugarcoating it. God is not your sugar daddy. God is not your sugar daddy.
Oh goodness. But yeah, just know it's gonna take work, man. I just know it's gonna take work. And there's another adage. I'm throwing a lot of quotes out here, but opportunity comes dressed in work clothes. Like, be ready to work. It's gonna be work. It's gonna suck sometimes,
The only
and that's what I
place
tell my son. He loves basketball. He enjoys it, and I tell him, look, sometimes you, even something that you love is gonna feel like work because you're not gonna want to do it. But again, it goes back to commitment. It goes back to routine. It goes back to doing the things that need to be done, even when you don't want to do it. You, you got to do it.
So, as you all can see, we have a lot of opinions about the current state of our church, which we will be talking about in our next episode. So,
Hey, tune
all
in.
of that being with all of that being said, that's all for today's episode of Level Up with Larry and Leo. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more insightful discussions, don't forget to subscribe. Everywhere that you
Bing.
can subscribe. And a special
Hit the
thank you
notification button so you can get the new episodes, new clips that come on too, man. Come on, show us some love. We giving you what we got. Take the journey with us.
And a special thank you to our sponsors, Next Level Media Marketing and Curb and Key Realty, for their support in making this episode possible. Thank you again
Yes.
for tuning in, everyone. Remember, no matter where you are in the journey, there are always opportunities to learn, grow, and level up. Until next time,
Peace.
peace.